I don't remember deciding to run. I only remember the sound behind me. Stopping. Not footsteps. Not breathing. Just everything else. The insects died first. All at once. Then the wind. It wasn't silence the way people describe it. It wasn't calm. It was pressure. Like the night itself had leaned closer. I didn't look back. Some instincts don't feel like fear. They feel like rules you forgot learning. Time didn't feel right. My watch said 11:47, but the second hand kept hesitating, like it was waiting for permission to move. The road ahead was barely visible, just my headlights cutting a narrow tunnel through the trees. Tall trunks, too close together. The kind of forest that feels older than maps. I had driven this road before. Dozens of times. It shaved 40 minutes off the trip home from my sister's place. Everyone used it. Locals, truckers, delivery vans. It was ordinary. That's what made it worse when it stopped being that. The radio crackled, faded, came back. Static thickened until it felt physical, like sand in my ears. I reached to change the station. That's when the voice came through. Not music. Not a broadcast. A man. Whispering. Low. Measured. Too close. Don't stop. I turned the radio off so hard my fingers hurt. My car kept moving, but my body had already locked up. The trees on either side of the road looked wrong. Not distorted, not twisted, just attentive, like they were leaning without moving. I told myself I was tired. Late night, long drive. That's when I saw the car ahead of me. It stopped, hazard lights blinking slowly, casting orange pulses across the tree trunks. The driver's door hung open. No movement, no silhouette. The road here was too narrow to pass. No shoulder, just forest pressed tight against asphalt. I slowed, then stopped. The hazards shut off. All at once. No clicks. No delay. Just dark. I should have stayed in my car. Everyone knows that rule. If you see a stopped car in the middle of nowhere, you call for help. You don't step out. But the quiet had started pressing on my ears again, and my phone showed no signal. I told myself it would be quick. I stepped out onto the road. The air felt heavier immediately. Thicker. My footsteps didn't echo. They didn't carry. They just vanished. I called out. Hello. My voice didn't come back to me. It didn't bounce. It didn't fade. It stopped like it had hit something soft. That's when I noticed the smell. Wet leaves. Cold soil. The kind of scent forests have after rain. But it hadn't rained. I took another step. The open car was empty. Keys gone. Seat cold. No signs of a struggle. No damage. Just abandoned. Behind me, something shifted in the woods. Not movement. Position. Like something had been standing still and decided to stand somewhere else. I felt it then. That instinct again. The one that doesn't feel like fear. I turned back toward my car. That's when I heard my voice. From the trees. Calling my name. Perfectly. Same tone. Same pacing. Even the hesitation before the second syllable. I ran. I don't remember my feet hitting the ground. I remember my breath tearing out of my chest. Short and sharp. Like it didn't belong to me anymore. I slammed into my driver's seat and locked the doors. The forest edge was closer than it should have been. In the mirror, the trees crowded the road, their shadows overlapping where there shouldn't have been shadows at all. And standing just beyond the headlights was a man, not emerging, not approaching, just already there. He looked ordinary. Jacket, hands in his pockets, but his smile didn't move when he blinked. "You left your lights on," he said. His voice matched the radio, matched the whisper. He was too far away for it to sound like that. My phone vibrated. No bars. No notifications. An incoming call. From my own number. The man tilted his head. Waiting. Something tapped the roof of my car. Once. Pause. Again. Not knocking. Counting. I stopped breathing. The tapping stopped immediately. The man's smile widened. That's when I realized something I still can't explain. The forest wasn't quiet anymore. It was listening. The engine didn't stall. It didn't sputter or cough or hesitate. It just shut off, like a decision had been made somewhere else. The dashboard light stayed on. The radio stayed dark. My headlights cut into the trees, but they didn't seem to reach as far as they had before. The road ahead felt shorter, compressed. I checked the clock again. 11:47. The second hand twitched. He stopped, then jumped forward too far. I turned the key. Nothing. No sound at all. The silence pressed closer, and I became aware of something I hadn't noticed before. My breathing sounded loud. Too loud. Each inhale felt like it traveled farther than it should have, like it might reach the trees. I forced myself to breathe through my nose. Slow, measured. The man by the roadside hadn't moved. Not closer, not farther, just watching. "You don't need to be scared," he said. The words came clean, but something about them felt recycled, like they'd been used before. Many times. My phone buzzed again. Same number. Me. The screen lit up my hands, and for a second I noticed how badly they were shaking. I didn't answer. The phone answered anyway. Static poured out, thick and layered. Under it, something else. Breathing. Not mine. Not quite human. The man took a step forward. The road didn't make a sound under his feet. "You came this way a lot," he said. "Thought you knew it." Something brushed the back of my neck. Not touch. Displacement. Like the air itself had moved around something solid. I felt the certainty then, sharp and cold. I wasn't alone in the car. I stared straight ahead. Didn't move. Didn't react. The rearview mirror showed the back seat. Empty. But the smell was stronger now. Wet leaves. Old water. Something metallic underneath. My sister's voice came from the passenger side. Soft. Tired. As if she'd been speaking for a long time. You missed a turn, she said. My throat closed. She shouldn't have been anywhere near this road. She hated driving at night. I squeezed my eyes shut. When I opened them, the passenger seat was still empty. The voice continued anyway. I told you not to rush, it said. You never listen. The man smiled wider. You can leave, he said. People leave all the time. I tried the ignition again. The engine roared to life. Too loud. Too sudden. I didn't think. I drove. The road stretched forward, but something about it felt wrong. The trees blurred past, yet it felt like I wasn't covering any distance. The same bend came into view again, and again. A reflective sign flashed in my headlights, then flashed again. Same scratches, the same dent. I passed it 3 times before I understood. I wasn't driving in a circle. The road was folding, bending back over itself. I accelerated. The sound of the engine lagged behind the motion of the car, like audio and video out of sync. When I slowed, the engine kept roaring for a second longer than it should have. My phone rang again. I threw it into the passenger seat. It rang anyway. From the back, from the floor, from inside the dashboard. Voices layered over each other now. My sister, the man, my own voice, all saying different things, but sharing the same rhythm, the same pauses. That's when the realization crept in. Not sudden, not dramatic, just heavy. It wasn't trying to stop me. It was trying to hear me. Every sound I made stayed too long. Every word felt recorded. I stopped breathing through my mouth. I counted in my head. The road responded by straightening. The radio clicked on by itself. Static again. Then the whisper. Good, it said. A car appeared ahead of me. My car. Same color. Same dent in the bumper. We stopped. Hazards flashing. The driver's door open. I slowed. I shouldn't have. But something inside me needed to see. The figure standing beside it turned. It was me. Same jacket. Same posture. Phone held to my ear. Listening. I hit the horn. The sound tore out of the car and exploded outward. The forest answered, not with an echo, with a scream. Every tree at once. The road buckled. Something slammed into the trunk hard enough to lift the back end. Then, nothing. No sound. No pressure. No sense of falling or stopping. Just absence. I woke up to birds. Real birds. Sunlight filtering through branches. My car was parked on the shoulder like it had always been there. A state trooper stood nearby, hands shading his eyes as he looked down the road. "You're lucky," he said. I didn't answer, because somewhere behind his voice, I could still hear something listening. The trooper kept talking, but his words slid past me. Lucky, dehydrated, long drive. I nodded at the right moments, because that's what people do when they're supposed to be relieved. My car started without hesitation. No warning lights. No errors. Everything worked. That bothered me more than if it hadn't. I waited until the trooper drove off before I pulled back onto the road. The forest looked normal in daylight. A green, open. Birdsong scattered through the trees in uneven bursts, like it couldn't quite decide when to start and stop. I drove home without taking the shortcut. I told myself that was caution, not fear. At home, I slept for 14 hours straight. No dreams. No darkness. Just blank. When I woke up, the quiet was the first thing I noticed. Not silence. Quiet. The kind that waits politely. My phone sat on the nightstand where I'd left it. No missed calls. No notifications. Except the battery was warm. I didn't touch it. I showered, ate, paced my apartment. Everything felt normal until I realized I was unconsciously controlling my breathing. Slow, shallow, like I was afraid of filling the room too much. That night, I turned on every light in the apartment. Not because I thought it would help, but because darkness felt like an invitation. I put the TV on for noise, left it on mute. Sound felt risky. Around 11, the birds outside stopped. I checked the time. 11:46. I stood very still. The clock clicked forward. 11:47. The refrigerator hummed, then stopped. The apartment didn't go silent. It went alert, like something had just realized I was there. My phone vibrated on the counter. No ring, just movement. The screen lit up. Incoming call. No number. I didn't answer. It went to voicemail. The voicemail icon appeared immediately. I didn't open it. I already knew what it would sound like. I sat on the couch and waited. Minutes passed. Then hours. Nothing happened. I told myself that meant it was over. That's when I heard breathing. From the hallway. Slow. Measured. Too controlled to be accidental. I didn't move. The breathing matched mine exactly. When I inhaled, it inhaled. When I held my breath, it paused. Not instantly, but learning. Testing. I stood up. The breathing continued. Closer now. Right behind the door to my bedroom. I spoke before I could stop myself. "Who's there?" The words echoed once. Not in the room. In my chest. My phone buzzed. A text. From my sister. "Did you call me last night?" I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. I typed back. "No." 3 dots appeared, then vanished. The breathing stopped. The lights flickered. When they stabilized, the hallway looked off. Longer. The door at the end seemed farther away than it should have been. I walked forward. Each step felt delayed, like the floor was waiting to see if I'd commit. The bedroom door was open. The room was empty, except the mirror. I hadn't noticed it before. Dull, leaning slightly forward, like it had been moved. My reflection stared back at me. It blinked a fraction of a second late. I smiled. It followed. I raised my hand. It hesitated, then copied me. The delay shortened. Learned. The phone rang. From inside the mirror. I stepped back. The reflection didn't. It leaned closer to the glass. Its mouth opened. My voice came out. Calm. Practiced. You're doing great, it said. Just keep listening. The room felt smaller, walls inching inward without moving. I backed into the hallway. The mirror stayed where it was, but I could still hear it. Breathing. Practicing. I spent the rest of the night sitting on the floor, back against the couch, lights on, eyes open. Nothing else happened. That's what made it worse. The next day, I drove past the forest again. Broad daylight. Nothing wrong. No pressure. No quiet. Just trees. But as I passed the tree line, I felt something lean. Not physically. A tension. That's when I finally understood. It never wanted me to stay. It wanted me to go. To carry it somewhere quieter. Somewhere smaller. Somewhere easier to learn. That night, I didn't turn the lights on. I sat in the dark and listened because I needed to know if I could hear it or if it had finally learned how to sound like me. The official explanation never changed. Fatigue, stress, a brief dissociative episode brought on by lack of sleep. The trooper wrote it all down neatly, the way people do when they need something to stay small. No damage to the road. No missing persons report. No abandoned vehicle logged that night. The stopped car never existed. Neither did the man. Neither did the voice. I signed the paperwork and went back to my life. That's what people expect you to do when nothing happened. For a while, it almost worked. I avoided the shortcut completely. Took longer routes. Stayed on main roads where headlights stacked up in front of me like reassurance. I kept the radio off. Silence felt safer if I chose it. Weeks passed. Then months. I started sleeping again. Dreams came back, shallow and fragmented but harmless. I told myself the forest had been a place, not a thing. That what happened had stayed where it belonged. The first sign I was wrong came quietly. I was brushing my teeth when I realized the bathroom fan had stopped. I hadn't turned it off. The sudden quiet felt familiar in a way I didn't like. Not empty. Expectant. I stood very still, toothpaste burning my tongue, and listened. Nothing else happened. I laughed at myself. Too loud. The sound didn't echo the way it should have in such a small room. That night, my phone lit up on the kitchen counter. No vibration. No sound. Just light. The screen showed an incoming call. No number. I let it ring until it stopped. It left a voicemail. 3 minutes long. I didn't play it. I didn't need to. I already knew what it would contain. Breathing. Mine. Slow. Careful. Practiced. The next morning, my sister called. She sounded tired. Asked if I'd been trying to reach her late at night again. Said the calls never spoke. Just stayed connected. Long enough for her to fall asleep to the sound of someone listening. I told her it wasn't me. She didn't argue. That was worse. I started paying attention to patterns. Every night at 11:47, something in my apartment stopped. Sometimes it was the refrigerator. Sometimes the air conditioning. Once it was the hum inside the walls themselves. The building would hold its breath, then let it go. I noticed I'd begun to match that rhythm. Unconsciously. Inhale. Pause. Exhale. I tried sleeping with music on. It didn't help. The sound warped slightly, stretching in places it shouldn't. Voices slowed. Notes bent. Like something was learning where they came from. Mirrors became a problem. Not immediately. Just small delays at first. A blink out of sync. A smile that held a fraction of a second too long. I covered them. All but one. I needed to know. The last time I drove past the forest, it was midday. Sun high. Traffic steady. Nothing wrong. But as I passed the tree line, I felt it again. That lean. That attention. Not calling. Not chasing. Waiting. I understood then that it hadn't followed me home the way I'd imagined. It hadn't attached itself. It had copied. The way echoes do. The way recordings do. The way voices linger in empty rooms long after the speaker is gone. It didn't need the forest. The forest was just where it practiced. I started hearing myself say things I didn't remember saying. Small things. Casual things. Answers to questions I hadn't heard. Once I woke up standing in my living room, phone in hand mid-call. The call log was empty. The battery was warm. I stopped talking altogether. At work. At home. In public. I communicated through text. Nods. Shrugs. It helped. For a while. But silence isn't absence. Silence is space. And space can be filled. Now at night, when my apartment is quiet enough, I hear breathing. In the walls. In the vents. In the places sound shouldn't collect. It matches mine perfectly. If I stop, it stops. Not immediately. Just long enough to confirm. I still drive. Only during the day. Nothing ever happens. But every time I pass a reflective surface at the right angle, I see myself looking back. Listening. Calm. Patient. Like it knows something I don't. I've learned not to ask questions out loud. I've learned not to answer the phone. I've learned that some things don't want to hurt you. They want to replace you. So I'm careful now. With my words. With my breath. With the quiet. Because if something learns you well enough to sound like you, how would you know when it's finally your turn to listen? Subscribe for more stories that feel uncomfortably real.